Okay, let's get one thing straight, because we've all seen it. That fucking Vaporeon meme that's taken over servers, threads, comment chains, and every "is this canon" argument thread at 3 AM for the last half decade. Now, the origin of this thing actually dates back to an anonymous post on 4chan's Pokemon board back in late 2018. And what it is, in the purest form, is a copypasta, a wildly inappropriate over-the-top chunk of text posted to provoke reactions. It claims Vaporeon is somehow the most compatible Pokemon with humans for breeding reasons, because of its stats, height, wetness, move pool, and water biology. People latched onto it precisely because it's absurd and disgusting, but not because it's backed by anything resembling game canon or biology. And of course, if you spent any time online in the past decade, you've probably seen at least a dozen iterations of this thing, sometimes paired with reaction images, sometimes straight up quoted like some kind of proof that Vaporeon is the breeding with humans Pokemon. Because it spreads because it's weird, shocking, and insane, and it shows up anytime someone brings up compatibility jokes. The meme is memorable primarily because it's so wrong on so many levels, and even people who've never played a Pokemon game know it. It's famous, it's everywhere. So we want to clear this up. Vaporeon does not, in canon, have any biological compatibility with humans. The whole copypasta was satire, dressed up as pseudoscience, leveraging game mechanics like egg groups, which are just a gameplay system that determines whether two Pokemon can actually produce an egg, and twisting them into pseudo-legitimacy. When in reality, egg groups don't imply anything about humans because humans don't belong to a Pokemon egg group at all. The whole Vaporeon most compatible with humans thing isn't even a weird relic from game design, it's just a meme that got out of hand. Anyways, now that we've got Vaporeon out of the way, and honestly, good riddance, let's talk about the other kinds of Pokemon that people have jokingly or seriously mentioned over the years in similar contexts, Pokemon whose design or lore makes people go, yeah, but what if, because that's where the real fun part of all this is. Hello everybody, my name is 2Bros1Game, and I'm only making this because a person in my Discord server mentioned it, and a lot of people wanted this to happen. It is not of my own free will. I'm currently being held at gunpoint, and I want to have a huge shout out to Vortex the Great, who is the person who actually made the whole chain. It's in the Discord server, link in the description or on screen right here if editing me can actually do my job. Yeah. So, anyways, I usually don't make videos like this. I do make video essays, but it's obvious about games or whatever. So, the next one probably will be a lot better or a lot worse, depending on how this goes. So, anyways.
Slowly rotating black man.
There are plenty of Pokemon in the human-like egg group, which, despite the name, doesn't mean they're compatible with humans in the biological sense. It just means that, according to the game's mechanic, these Pokemon share enough traits with each other that they can produce eggs together. They're bipedal, they have arms and hands, and most of them are either psychic type or fighting type. Seriously, the group is full of things like Machamp, Hitmonlee, Hitmonchan, Mr. Mime, and Lucario. And none of that means humans can breed with them. It means in Pokemon to Pokemon terms, they're physically analogous enough for the game's egg mechanics. And despite that, fans have decided to pull out all the stops with speculation over the years. Some people will point to Machamp like it's some kind of buff exercise for compatibility. The logic usually goes something like, because it's bipedal and muscular, it's human-like, ergo, it could work. But that's obviously just surface level thinking. You might as well just pick literally any upright Pokemon and slap that same reasoning onto it. Outside of gameplay breed mechanics, there isn't a single piece of official lore suggesting in humans and Pokemon produce offspring with each other. For the record, that goes for all of them. For every Machamp, every Mr. Mime, and every Alakazam fan theory, there's no canonical evidence in any Pokemon game, anime episode, manga chapter, or style guide that humans and Pokemon ever had sex with each other in a biological sense, let alone have viable hybrids. Yes, we know that most likely there were Pokemon marriages, but that doesn't imply anything. If we know that, we would see little human Pokemon hybrids running around. And genetic experiments don't count either because it's just you're taking the genetic DNA of a human and morphing it into a Pokemon. Whatever. Marriages is not sex. Why the fuck is Tony Soprano playing Deadlock? People also bring up Alakazam sometimes because of its insane psychic powers and intelligence. The thinking is, well, if it's smart enough to read minds and do telekinesis, maybe the brain chemistry lines up somehow. And yeah, that's fun to joke about, but again, game mechanics and lore treat psychic ability as a unique metaphysical trait, don't magically translate into genetic compatibility. It's just spec-fic dressed up in spandex and psychic powers. Of course, the main one that a lot of people are talking about right now is Ditto. Because if we're going to wander down the absolute weirdest corner of Pokemon meme lore and turn it into game theory,
I just simultaneously whipped a Nene!
We have to deal with one Pokemon that literally breaks the breeding system in the actual games. In the actual games, Ditto is the only species that can breed with almost any other Pokemon at all, so long as the target Pokemon isn't in the no eggs discovered category. Babies, legendaries, mythicals, ultra beasts, and a few weird exceptions. And isn't another Ditto. That's a really important rule to understand before we go deeper, so we gotta unpack it. In normal Pokemon breeding mechanics, two Pokemon can only produce an egg if they share at least one egg group and are of opposite genders. That's the bit of lore people vaguely remember from the daycare lady telling you they don't seem to like each other. But Ditto functions as a wild card in the system. Ditto has a special breeding property. It isn't constrained to be any of that shit. You can stick Ditto with a male Machamp, a female Pikachu, a genderless Magnemite, whatever, and eventually you get an egg that hatches into the non-Ditto partner species. Ditto basically fills in for any missing gender and shared egg group requirements, and thus forces compatibility on virtually every Pokemon in the game. The thing is, the games do draw the line somewhere. Ditto cannot breed with Pokemon that belong to the undiscovered egg group, like I stated last time. That includes most legendaries and mythicals like Mew, Lugia, Arceus, etc. Because those species are literally coded to be unbreedable, period. That's part of the Pokemon's balance, part of its mystique. And yeah, just to be clear, Ditto doesn't mate with itself in the games either. If you try to pair Ditto with Ditto, the game just literally doesn't let you produce an egg. No weird glitch babies, no random Ditto Jr., nothing. That's a codified design choice. Now here where the meme crowd completely lost their minds over the years. Some folks extrapolated Ditto's breed with anything mechanic and twisted it into if humans were Ditto, we could fuck any Pokemon. Which, first of all, that's not even how the mechanic works. Ditto doesn't magically fuse genes, create hybrid species, or blend DNA across species in the game's canon. All Ditto does in the daycare is make an egg of the same species as its partner. That's it. There's no game mechanic in the franchise that results in genuine hybrid offspring, not even with Ditto involved. And there's definitely no canonical support for humans having any comparable biological role in Pokemon reproduction. But if we're going to entertain the stupid fucking thought experiment of what if humans had the equivalent of Ditto's compatibility with Pokemon, that's where the fun game theory and speculative biology begins. You have to imagine a world where the barrier that normally keeps humans out of Pokemon breeding mechanics is rewritten so that humans essentially function like Ditto, bypassing reproductive barriers, syncing with Pokemon's developmental biology, and producing offspring that aren't just copies of Pokemon. Now, with Ditto in the mix as a narrative archetype, we can lay down some rules for this hypothetical universe pretty fast. First, humans would need to possess a universal compatibility field, analogous to Ditto's breeding exception. I know these are big words. These are big words for tiny brains, because all of this would let them bypass normal species boundaries. Secondly, that universe compatibility would need to harmonize with Pokemon developmental biology, which in canon produces eggs, not live births for Pokemon, and which always yield a baby Pokemon of a single species based on the mother's side. To imagine a human involvement, you have to rewrite that rule so the offspring isn't automatically a Pokemon version of the mother, but a genuinely blended organism. So, once we've established that in fantasy universe, humans are biologically Ditto-like because of some hypothetical gene aura thing, the next question is, but if humans could do this, which Pokemon makes the most damn sense to actually hybridize with biologically? That's where everyone's brain hurdles past Vaporeon memes and lands in the realm of speculative biology, because you can't pull ideas out of your ass. You need a candidate whose design, lore, and in-world thematic identity lend themselves to this imaginary kind of genetic fusion. Let's say that humans have a mystical reproductive compatibility field that lets them sync up with certain Pokemon whose biology is closer to theirs, and the most logical group is, you guessed it, hybrid Pokemon, or humanoid Pokemon. Those upright, two-legged arms Those upright, two-legged types with arms, hands, faces, and often advanced cognition. They look like us, they behave like us, and in some crazy fan-fictional world, they have a better shot at interfacing genetically. So from all the candidates in that hypothetical compatibility pool, there's one Pokemon that rises above the rest as the one that makes the most narrative sense. Not because it's bipedal, not just because it's powerful, because its lore in multiple media actually talks about aura, emotional bond, and communication on a near human level. And that Pokemon is...
Lucario!
Let me lay out why Lucario is the winner in this if we rewrote biology fantasy scenario, instead of Vaporeon or Machamp or any of those meme casualties. I know this is a straight ass pull, and to most it seems like that, but look, I genuinely had to do some basic research, albeit somewhat surface level, just because the people wanted this. People wanted this! The people in my Discord server wanted this! Even you, Bandit. Because, let's just continue. Look, like, Lucario isn't just bipedal. It's depicted in games and anime as capable of sensing and communication via aura, which is essentially a mystical energy tied to life force and emotional state. In a world where you want something that can theoretically sync with human biology on more than a superficial level, that's huge. Lucario aura isn't just a gimmick, it's in the lore. In the lore, it bridges emotional, spiritual, and sensory realms, making it feel like the closest thing in Pokemon to a shared biological and emotional interface with humans. If humans in the speculative world had some compatible aura physiology, a Lucario hybrid would be the one to most likely have a real two-way communication, emotional understanding, and, in this fantasy scenario, a plausible developmental pathway from a mixed genome. In contrast to weird, creepy memes about aquatic mammal-cat hybrids, Lucario's story themes are about unity between species and understanding deeper life force. It's the one that, in our made-up biology, would be closest to something humans could gel with on an intellectual and emotional level. Not just because it has two legs and arms, but because its entire fictional biology is built around shared energy fields. In this fan theory universe, what matters more than base stats or whether it can learn attract. So yeah, if we're hand-waving biology and saying what Pokemon could, hypothetically, produce a healthy, strong, evolution-changing hybrid with humans, Lucario is the one that wins the whole damn bracket. Could it happen in canon? No, not even close. There's zero evidence in any official Pokemon media that humans and Pokemon ever interbreed, have children, produce hybrid species. The whole thing is a meme playground and nothing more. But as a game theory, thought experiment that's more entertaining than a folder full of Vaporeon memes, Lucario makes the best sense if you're writing the script for some weird anime AU where humans and Pokemon share DNA like they share trainer bonds. Thank fuck. Can I leave now? Can I get out of here? I'm trapped in this little square. I would like freedom. I want to make the next one about Devil May Cry. Can I do that? Is it possible? Hello? Is anyone there? I did what you asked. Hello?